Okay, what's up, y'all? There is some drama going on in the Dungeons and Dragons world, and you know I can't resist, so let's get into it. It's all about the open gaming license and what Wizards of the Coast is trying to do to it. So, for 20 years, since I believe the year 2000, everybody's been operating under what's called the OGL 1.0, and that allowed so many good things to be created. Paizo could make Pathfinder, MCDM could do his thing, Critical Role could publish their book. It's a great thing for the community that we could all build and expand upon Dungeons and Dragons. But what's happening now is let's get into this article. It explains it. This is by Linda Codega on Gizmodo.com, and wow, here we go. It's Dungeons and Dragons new license tightens its grip on competition. An exclusive look at Wizards of the Coast's new open gaming license shows efforts to curtail competitors and tighten control on creators of all sizes. So, let's see what he gets into. The new Dungeons & Dragons Open Gaming License, a document which allows a vast group of independent publishers to use the basic game rules created by D&D owner Wizards of the Coast, significantly restricts the kind of content allowed and requires anyone making money under the license to report their products to Wizards of the Coast directly, according to an analysis of a leaked draft document dated mid-December. So all this is based on a leaked draft document, but it's pretty much confirmed from industry insiders. So despite reassurances from the Wizards of the Coast last month, the original OGL will become an unauthorized agreement, and it appears that no new content will be permitted to be created under the original license. So what is the Dungeons & Dragons Open Gaming License? Well, the original OGL is what many contemporary tabletop publishers use to create much of their products within the boundaries of D&D's reproducible content. Much of the original OGL is dedicated to the system resource document and includes character species, classes, equipment, and most importantly, general gameplay structures, including combat spells and creatures. And that's called the SRD. And if you can actually download it, it's like a PDF, and it's pretty much got all kinds of free content in there, like what it says, spells, creatures, the basic classes and stuff like this. Anyway, the creation of the OGL version 1.0, which was originally published in 2000, has allowed a host of outside designers and publishers, both amateur and professional, to make new products for a game that remains entirely owned by Hasbro subsidiary Wizards of the Coast, or WOTC. While this arrangement sometimes created products that directly competed with WOTC publications, it also allowed the game to flourish and grow thanks to the resources created by the wider D&D community. In 2022, when WOTC announced plans to develop a revised edition of Dungeons & Dragons rules codenamed OneDND, the company said it would update the OGL as well. The OGL has been tweaked multiple times since its 2000 release, and WOTC has at times transitioned to other royalty-free licenses, but the original OGL 1.0 had essentially remained intact until the company said it would develop OGL version 1.1. So what is in the new OGL 1.1? A lot, actually. While the original Open Gaming License is a relatively short document, coming in at under 900 words, the new draft of the OGL 1.1, which was provided to IO9 by a non-WOTC developer, is over 9,000 words long. It addresses new technologies like blockchain and NFTs, and takes a strong stance against bigoted material, explicitly stating that the company may terminate the agreement if third-party creators publish material that is blatantly racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, bigoted, or otherwise discriminatory. And I guess that's in their opinion. One of the biggest changes to the document is that it updates the previously available OGL 1.0 to state that it is no longer an authorized license agreement. And by ending the original OGL, many licensed publishers will have to completely overhaul their products and distribution in order to comply with the updated rules. Large publishers who focused almost exclusively on products based on the original OGL, including Paizo, Cobalt Press, and Green Ronin, will be under pressure to update their business model incredibly fast. This is no mistake. According to the document procured by IO9, the new agreement states that the Open Gaming License was always intended to allow the community to help grow D&D and expand it creatively. It wasn't intended to subsidize major competitors, especially now that PDF is by far the most common form of distribution. Wow. So if you take a look at that statement, it's basically saying it wasn't intended to subsidize major competitors. So essentially saying WOTC will not allow major competitors to essentially exist that use their content. That's how it reads to me. They basically want to get rid of Paizo. So this sentiment is reiterated later in the document. The OGL wasn't intended to fund major competitors, and it wasn't intended to allow people to make D&D apps, videos, or anything other than printed or printable materials for use while gaming. We are updating the OGL in part to make that very clear. Okay. So this is the part where they're going to shut down every virtual tabletop besides theirs. That's my takeaway. They want to have a monopoly on. They want to be the virtual tabletop. All right, moving on. Paizo Incorporated, publisher of Pathfinder RPG, one of D&D's largest competitors, declined to comment on the changes of this article, stating that the rules update was a complicated and ongoing situation. Chris Promise, founder and president of Green Ronin Publishing, said that despite the fact that one of their own products, Mutants and Masterminds, was published on the original OGL in 2002 and still available today, they had not seen the updated OGL and they do not believe there is any benefit to switching to the new one as described. Well, I don't think you're going to have a choice there, buddy. Everybody has to switch. That's what they're saying, at least right now. So Wizards of the Coast has declined to comment for this article, how convenient, or answer specific questions, also convenient, about the leaked OGL document. A spokesperson directed IO9 to a blog post the company published in December, which reassures the company that the OGL will not materially affect the majority of people working in the industry. Majority of people working in the industry. So there's a lot of people that aren't working in the industry, and some people that are will also be affected. Wonderful. What will happen to the original OGL? The original OGL granted perpetual worldwide non-exclusive license to the open game content, commonly called the System Resource Document, and directed that licensees may use any authorized version of this license to copy, modify, and distribute any open game content originally distributed under any version of this license. But the updated OGL says that this agreement is an update to the previously available OGL 1.0A and which is no longer an authorized license agreement. So there you have it. They're deauthorizing 1.0. The new document clarifies further in the warranties section that this agreement governs your use of the licensed content and, unless otherwise stated in this agreement, any prior agreements between us and you are no longer in force. So according to attorneys consulted for this article, the new language may indicate that Wizards of the Coast is rendering any future use of the original OGL void, and asserting that if anyone wants to continue to use open game content of any kind, they will need to abide by the terms of the updated OGL, which is a far more restrictive agreement than the original OGL. Wizards of the Coast declined to clarify if this was in fact the case. So, in my experience, when people don't comment and refuse to clarify, you can generally just, whatever the worst possible thing that it could be, it's going to be that. So, if somebody refuses to comment, I would just take it in the worst possible way. That's just my pessimism, I guess. So, who will be affected by the new OGL 1.1? If the original license is in fact no longer viable, every single licensed publisher will be affected by the new agreement, because every commercial creator will be asked to report their products, new and old, to Wizards of the Coast. Additionally, while the original OGL did not specifically outline what kind of content third-party creators could make available and profit from, the updated OGL is very specific. The updated license only allows for the creation of role-playing games and supplements in printed media and static electronic file formats. It does not allow for anything else, including but not limited to things like videos, virtual tabletops or virtual tabletop campaigns, computer games, novels, apps, graphic novels, music, songs, dances, and pantomimes. You may engage in these activities only to the extent allowed under the Wizards of the Coast fan content policy or separately agreed to between you and us. So that's basically just saying they're shutting down everything except for books and PDFs. That's all there is to it. Or else you got to go up to them and play Mommy May I make a video game, Mommy May I write a novel, that kind of thing. And they're going to say no, obviously. The fan content policy can be read here, but in broad strokes it allows for free content based on or incorporating our IP. Fan content includes fan art, videos, podcasts, blogs, websites, streaming content, tattoos, altars to your cleric's deity, etc. Now that'd be pretty cool if WotC owned your tattoo and you had to pay royalties. The leaked OGL 1.1 draft indicates that WotC may not give licensees a lot of time to adjust and agree to this new policy. The document reads, if you want to publish SRD-based content on or after January 13, 2023, and commercialize it, your only option is to agree to the OGL commercial. IO9 source indicated that the final version of the document was originally intended for release on January 4th, which would have given the companies and creators 7 business days to agree and comply. So what's changing in the new OGL? The updated OGL is divided into non-commercial and commercial agreements, and the rules are slightly different if you're making money from direct sales or access to your work. The biggest change between the two sections is a tiered earnings system, more on that later, new royalties, and rules for the use of crowdfunding. There is some clarity given about Patreon and tips. Basically, if your content is available for free elsewhere, but people can support you voluntarily without having their access affected, you are considered non-commercial. Additionally, all creators will need to clearly and deliberately distinguish their content from licensed content. Oh, so you got to put a little sticker on your thing that says this is homebrew, essentially. The new document reads that this must be done in a way that allows for a reader of your licensed work to understand the distinction without checking any other document. The updated OGL suggests a different color font, asterisks on the page, or putting a separate index or list in the back of your licensed work to list out what exactly you used from the SRD. So you got to write like a bibliography of, oh, I used charm person. Other parts of the new OGL document created a tiered system of categorizing licensees based on their revenues from commercialized work under the updated OGL. Will OGL publishers have to pay royalties? Probably not. Unless they're making $750,000, licensees get to keep the money they earn. But the new OGL states that the commercial agreement covers all commercial uses, whether they're profitable or not. So if you go into the red on a Kickstarter that earned $800K in backing money, you will still owe Wizards of the Coast, regardless of the fact that you did not profit from your venture. Note that if you appear to have achieved great success from producing OGL commercial content, we may reach out to you for a more custom and mutually beneficial licensing arrangement. The document notes, indicating that WOTC is open to creating custom contracts and agreements, but at their discretion. This could indicate that subsidized competition, like Pathfinder, might not get a great deal. Yeah, the whole point of this is to shut down Pathfinder. It's to shut down virtual tabletops that aren't the WOTC one that's coming out. The revenue tiers are as follows. Initiate tier, have not generated 50K. Intermediate tier, you have generated between 50 and 750K. And expert tier, you've generated over 750K. So according to the document, if and only if you're generating a significant amount of money over 750K per year from across all licensed works, and I think this is gross revenue probably. Yep, there it is. Total revenue. So that's not your profit. This is not your profit. So if you spend 750K to make something and you earn 750K in revenue and your profit's zero, well, I guess, okay, you won't have to owe them money if you go, here we go, here explain. Draft goes on to explain if you make 750,000 and $1, you owe Wizards of the Coast 25 cents. Okay, so they're taking 25% of everything over 750K. So if you hear a better example, you spend 1.5 million to create something, your revenue is 1.5 million. You're going to owe WOTC money, and you're going to take the L. You're going to take a loss. So keep that in mind. That's going to disincentivize any risk big time. And that's the purpose when you get right down to it. As stated in their announcement in December, WOTC suspects that less than 20 companies are at the expert tier. Well, suspects is the key word there. Who has to register work with Wizards of the Coast? The updated OGL says that no matter what tier you are in and how much money you believe that your product will make, you must register with us any new licensed work you intend to offer for sale, including a description of the licensed work. We will also ask for your contact information on where you intend to publish the licensed work, and its price, among other things. Creators will also be required to use a specific badge in order to publicly and obviously identify their work as covered by the updated OGL. That's going to be the mark of shame, the homebrew mark of shame. And they will have to give WOTC a copy of the publication. That's not that big a deal. The early draft suggests that many of these processes will be handled through the company's official digital toolset, D&D Beyond. This is a significant change from the original OGL, which allowed creators to publish without reporting. And while it makes sense that Wizards wants to monitor who's using the open game content, this feels like an impossible task. People are selling their work across dozens of platforms, and sometimes one product is being sold on multiple platforms. Whatever the reporting system looks like, the biggest burden will likely be on the smallest creators. Yeah, especially the compliance burden of like making sure your paperwork is straight and you reference the license and you do the footnotes and all this. That's going to fall on just the guy that wants to make something cool. Then he uploads it, and then he gets kicked off the website. That's what it's going to be. Kickstarter is D&D's preferred crowdfunding platform. Interesting. Online crowdfunding is a new phenomenon since the original OGL was created, and the new license attempts to address how and where these fundraising campaigns can take place. The OGL 1.1 states that if creators are members of the expert tier, if your licensed work is crowdfunded or sold by any platform other than Kickstarter, you will pay a 25% royalty on qualified revenue. And if your licensed work is crowdfunded on Kickstarter, our preferred crowdfunding platform, you will only pay a 20% royalty on qualifying revenue. Wow. So it's like backroom deals. Check this out. They made a backroom deal with Kickstarter. This means that the updated OGL is directly encouraging Kickstarter over any other platform, including private company sites, or as any non-Kickstarter revenue over $750K will incur a 25% royalty, and only Kickstarter revenue gets the break. There is no reason stated in the OGL 1.1 why Kickstarter is Wizards' preferred crowdfunding platform. However, John Ritter, director of games at Kickstarter, responded on Twitter saying that Kickstarter was contacted after WOTC decided to make OGL changes, so we felt the best move was to advocate for creators, which we did. Okay. Managed to get a lower percentage, plus more being discussed. No hidden benefits, no financial kickbacks for Kickstarter. This is their license, not ours, obviously. Well, I would not entirely agree with that, because if more people use your platform, that's vis-a-vis, that's a kickback, essentially. There's also a section in the updated OGL dedicated to conditions surrounding crowdfunding. Even for initiate and intermediate tiers, there are strings attached using any crowdfunding platform, not just Kickstarter. To get a project off the ground, the two main points are that you may only crowdfund the production of licensed works, and that no infringing materials are given out as perks or rewards. So I guess, what, you give them a mouse pad with a beholder on it, and that's an infringing material? That's what it sounds like to me. The power is back at Wizards of the Coast. While there are plenty more to parse, the main takeaway from the leaked OGL 1.1 draft document is that WOTC is keeping power close at hand. There is no mention of perpetual worldwide rights given to creators, which was present in the Section 4 of the original OGL, and one of the caveats is that the company can modify or terminate this agreement for any reason whatsoever, provided we give 30 days notice. So WOTC also gives the right to use any content that licensees create, whether commercial or non-commercial, although this is couched in language to protect Wizards products from infringing on creators' copyright. The document states that for any content created under the updated OGL, regardless of whether or not it is owned by the creator, Wizards will have a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, sub-licensable, royalty-free license to use that content for any purpose. So back to our example, you spend $1.5 million on your book, you get $1.5 million in revenue, so you take the L on the royalty fees, and Wizards can just take your work and sell it down the river as if you didn't exist. Not saying they'll do that, I'm just saying they can. There are a lot of implications in this extended policy, and the ramifications of this updated OGL could have a chilling effect on new licensed products. I think it definitely will. As only static products are included, all work that publishers do for virtual tabletops may have to be offered as non-commercial free products, which de-incentivizes their production. The royalties associated with any company making above $750K could also prompt publishers to hold back extra products or scale down projects so they stay under the expert tier. Wizards of the Coast is clearly expecting these OGL changes to be met with some resistance, and the document does note that if the company oversteps, they are aware that they will receive community pushback and bad PR. And we're more than open to being convinced that we made a wrong decision. Well, here's your community pushback, buddy. I'm it. Subscribe.